Good morning and welcome. This is Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwaka Mimo, and it's good to be back with you. Now, one of the highlights of the election campaigns this week was the public declaration of support for Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election campaign from Budalangi MP and Labour Party of Kenya leader Ababu Namwamba. Mr. Namwamba, you'll remember back in 2008, refused to pledge loyalty to the then President Mwai Kibaki, instead taking the oath in Parliament in the name of President Raila Amolo Odinga. Since then, Mr. Namwamba has been at the center of his own intriguing political story, and he's our guest today. As always, we have the panel of Mutegi Njau and Charles Odhiambo, both of Real Media Services. Good morning and welcome.
Asante.
It's good to have you back on Cheche. We haven't had you for about 2 years. Quite a bit has happened in that time. Help us understand how you got to this point where the last time you were on Cheche, you were declaring unwavering commitment to Raila Odinga, and this week you are declaring unwavering commitment to President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Really, Udo, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be back on Cheche. It's been a while, as you've said. But there's nothing intriguing, really. Nothing unusual, nothing surprising. This is just politics. And politics is a game of shared ideals, shared goals, shared vision. You reach a point and you ask yourself, do you still share the same vision? Do you still share the same ideals? And that's why change of formations is the most normal thing in politics. Who would have imagined after the rather bitter fallout between Raila and Kalonzo, who would have imagined that Kalonzo Musyoka would ever be Raila's running mate a few years down the line? Who would have imagined that after 2002, Musalia Mudavadi running mate to Uhuru Kenyatta, 2007, Musalia Mudavadi running mate to Raila Odinga, 2013, Musalia Mudavadi on his own, 2017, Musalia Mudavadi managing Raila's campaign. This is normal. So there's absolutely nothing unusual here.
So our imagination is concerned with your fortunes at the moment, and one of the things you said on Monday is that only a fool never changes his
Absolutely.
mind. So were you foolish, therefore, to have been supporting Raila Odinga for what, almost 10 years?
Absolutely not. It simply means, that's a famous English saying, it simply means that an ordinary mind that has sense, that has ability to deduce and deduct, can change mind, can look at things from different perspectives.
Based on what your change is based on what?
I think I've already said that, Mutegi. I've already said that I did not join ODM. I'm a founder member of ODM, just like many other people on the political scene today. You may want to know that Uhuru Kenyatta is a founder member of ODM. William Ruto is a founder member of ODM. Najib Balala, in fact, Najib Balala is the person who proposed the name Orange Democratic Movement in Kisumu. And so, you belong to a political formation because you share certain ideals. You share a certain vision of how politics is done. Then you reach a point and you realize, oh, what we share is men in black. What we share is deceit. What we share is dishonesty. What we share is just empty rhetoric and propaganda. And you ask yourself, do I want to continue to belong to this kind of formation? And you decide, no. I want to play politics that is more substantive. It doesn't matter how long it takes. What it matters is that you have seen the light. I don't know how long it took.
So then this statement, Ababu Namwamba's blood is so incompatible with Jubilee that if you mix them, what you will get is
a blood clot.
A lethal blood clot. I'm paraphrasing. Is that empty rhetoric?
It's not rhetoric. It's a statement that is situated in certain circumstances. If every statement you make or every position you take is circumstantial, it must be seen in certain context. And in the context of the time when that statement was made, it was accurate. It was not empty rhetoric. It was meant. And I always say what I mean and mean what I say. And at that time, I honestly meant exactly what I said. But as I've said,
a good idea develops to a better idea. I'm just taking you on the same. A good idea develops to a better idea.
Must give way to a better idea.
So should we look forward to a best idea in this case? Are we looking at a situation where Ababu Namwamba will not be in Jubilee soon? 10 years?
You know, this is a matter of context. You must look at the context. The context of today is that I believe what you call the NASA formation. And these are people I know extremely well. I have worked with Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula, Isaac Ruto. I was Isaac Ruto's chairman in the Justice Committee in Parliament. I chaired a committee in which he was a member for 5 years. I know these people very well. And I know that definitely they do not have anything transformative for this country.
Okay, fine. Yes, so we'll come to that in a minute. But I'd like to understand the clarity, the seeing of the light, and why it took 10 years. You say it doesn't matter when, but you say that you realize that you did not share deceit, men in black, and propaganda. So ODM's history has been a turbulent one. Even as a founding member, you'll be aware of that. At what point did you decide, now that the heat was on you, that it was no longer viable for you to remain in ODM?
You know, in the journey of life, you encounter situations, you encounter experiences that mature you, that grow you, that open your eyes to perspective that may not have been clearer to you previously. And so there are certain things which have happened along that journey. For instance, the men in black at Kasarani. It made me realize that the violence we see out there. Just a moment, let me explain this because this is important. The violence we see out there.
The context of the men in black being that you were vying for ODM Secretary General,
yes,
and that election was disrupted by armed
people,
armed men dressed in black.
And then you realize the violence you normally see out there during nominations is not sporadic. It's not something unplanned. It's actually part of a design. It is part of an arrangement that is very deliberate. And then you sit back and say, okay, this might actually be part of the DNA of this formation. And then after that, of course, you strike a deal and you decide, fine, we'll forget that and I'll serve as Secretary General. And then you realize that you're never really meant to exercise an authority. You're not meant to make any change. For instance, everybody's complaining about Jubilee today.
This is the ODM
elections board. Yeah. Then they forget, in the brief period I was Secretary General, I fired this whole board. I fired Judy Pareno and her entire board because I believed she did not have the moral capacity, she did not have the capacity, and her board did not have the wherewithal to really preside over nominations for this party.
Okay,
she was reinstated.
She's not here to defend herself.
Okay, fine. But the fact I want to say here, without going into the deep, is that I fired this board. It was reinstated by the party leader without even consulting me. And when I fired this board, it's a resolution that had been passed by NEC in the presence of the party leader. Then you realize, really, the things that people say out there is just posturing. Even this whole thing of commitment to democracy is hogwash. It is something just to befuddle and impress people out there, but they don't believe in this thing.
Therefore, for you to realize this when you yourself are on the receiving end of it, because there are several others like you, and they all have similar stories. Okay, whether it's William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, all of them have similar tales of all sorts of exclusion and machinations within ODM. Did you not see this then as a founding member?
It comes to you more sharply, perhaps if it's a personal experience. You feel it more intensely. But besides that point, and by the way, I wouldn't want to waste time here on ODM. Honestly, ODM is an X.
That
is my past.
We're trying to
really, to waste time on an X, when you have a life, you have a current.
We're trying to understand your evolution. Let
me just mention this, just to contextualize this, and to perhaps more strikingly illustrate why this really should not be surprising anybody. 1997, Raila Odinga as a presidential candidate. 1998, a few months down the line, while the opposition is in fact preparing a petition against Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, Raila jumps ship and becomes Moi's Minister for Energy, and even goes on to replace Joseph Kamotho as Secretary General of KANU. What can be more profound? What can be more profound than Raila Odinga Minister for Energy in Moi's government and Secretary General of the Nyayo Party, of the Jogo Party? These things happen, and for me, I believe that I made a decision that is very well informed. I honestly believe that I'm in a better place. I'm in a place where I can play progressive politics, and we can now talk about real issues like the SGR that is being launched this morning.
Well, we'll be hearing from our reporter who's at the coast covering the launch. So now you come to the better idea, because that's what you've told us. This is the question that Charles put to you.
And maybe just before the better idea, Udwak, Mheshimiwa Babu Namwamba has mentioned something about making decisions without the knowledge of the Secretary General of the party. Fast forward to you, the current situation. We had similar incidences, albeit on social media, about Labour Party of Kenya. Your Secretary General was complaining that you as the party leader made decisions without his knowledge or consultations.
It is absolutely. I wouldn't want to sit here and discuss matters of or allegations that have not come to my attention directly. But what I know is that I belong to a party that respects institutional processes and that makes decisions through processes. The decision to retire David McCullough, Secretary General of ODM, was made by the National Labour Party. Was made by the National Executive Committee, NEC, of Labour Party, at a meeting properly convened. In fact, the meeting was convened by McCullough himself, although he did not turn up at a meeting which he had convened. And so that decision was made. It was ratified. It was registered with the Register of Political Parties. It is the past. It's water under the bridge. We moved on, just like I moved on from ODM.
I'm guessing that if David were watching this, especially as he used to sit on this panel, that he would dispute your version.
Maybe you should have him. We should have him. But David is busy with his senatorial bid in Bungoma. I wish him well, even though I saw one of his core principles urging him to step down in favor of Moses Wetangula. But despite the pressures in Bungoma, I wish him well. He's my brother and he's my very good friend. Yeah.
So let's why is the idea of an Uhuru presidency, a re-election, a better idea for you?
As I've said, Woodwork, I have had the privilege of working with all these people. At one time, we even sat in the same cabinet. So I have worked with Uhuru, I have worked with Ruto, I have worked with Raila, I have worked with all these people. And I can definitely tell you that in my assessment and looking at things with a bird's eye view and in full perspective, I regard President Uhuru Kenyatta to be more honest, to be more genuine, and to be more accommodating. I believe that he genuinely means well for this country. People will talk about the challenges.
At what point did you realize this? Because honestly, you've been there all the time. At what point did you realize
that? But Mutegi, even as I supported Raila Odinga, even as I belonged to ODM, I have never called Uhuru Kenyatta dishonest. I have never regarded Uhuru Kenyatta to not to be genuine. In fact, I have always described Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto as worthy rivals. And my position has always been, there is a world of difference in the English dictionary between the word enemy and rival. And I've always said these are rivals, they are not enemies. Today, I can be able to tell you that weighing all the factors and looking at everything objectively, and having observed Uhuru Kenyatta as president for 4 years now, I believe he genuinely means well for this country, and he's more accommodating, and I believe he has the capacity to lead this country to confront the challenges we face today.
So around and about the time word was in the air, Babu is working with the Jubilee government, then you are still Secretary General of ODM. Were you already working with them?
Absolutely not. I decided to work with President Uhuru Kenyatta after my party Labour made a resolution on the 10th day of March 2017 to engage with the President and the Deputy for purposes of working together. At no time while I was a member or a leader within ODM did I have any working. In fact, the only time I ever engaged the President, and the President is aware about this, and the Deputy, was when 40 members of Parliament from the Western region visited the State House purposely to discuss the matter of Mumia Sugar, which was on its deathbed at that time. And we went in public. It was a public meeting. It was an official engagement between leaders of the region and His Excellency the President.
So if we're to take your top 3 reasons for supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta as his, personality, being more accommodating, having a vision for Kenya, and I think the third thing you said was being
genuine,
being sincere, sincerity.
Sincere, yes.
What would be your top 3 reasons for, other than your own personal experiences with ODM, because we have seen people leave ODM but remain affiliated with the opposition, defecting to Wiper and various other, sympathizing parties. What would be your top 3 reasons for leaving the opposition side?
Well, first of all, you should know that I'm a leader of a party. I'm a leader of a party, and as a leader of a party, I'm not part of government. And so, this question of leaving the opposition, I don't know really what it means. What I'm doing is that I'm leading a party that has decided unanimously, through the proper procedures established by the party constitution, to support the re-election of a sitting president. We are not part of this government. If Uhuru forms government after the August 8th elections, he may decide at his pleasure to incorporate Labour Party in that formation. But as of now, we are an independent party that has consciously decided to support the re-election of His Excellency the President. Okay. And we have good reasons. As I said the other day, bazillion reasons they could fit.
Bazillion reasons. And the question that I'm asking you, independent party or not, why did you choose to align your party with the governing side and not with the opposition side?
I think I've already said that. First of all, I consider these 5 men, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi, Isaac Ruto, I consider them to be in pursuit of something that I do not share.
Which is?
I do not believe they're in pursuit of anything genuinely in the best interest of Kenya. I believe they're in pursuit of something that is innately personal, and that's why they would sit in a room and purport to share positions that do not even exist. And the first thing, the first agenda they're going to load on the people of Kenya, the moment they get, in the very unlikely event that they get elected, the first agenda will be to load Kenyans with a constitutional referendum. Because they're telling us they want to create some queer positions, premier cabinet this, premier whatever. I mean, crazy positions, which just tells you this is a group of 5 people who first and foremost want positions for themselves. And in fact, they don't even seem to believe in the agenda they are pursuing. That's why one is running for governor in Bomet, the other one is running for Senate. Why don't you just sit back and wait to be premier or whatever? Why are you going to run?
As a lawyer, and a good one at that, do you really believe professionally that you need a constitutional referendum to create the position of a chief minister?
You need a referendum to alter the structure of government. What I know, and by the way, I'm not just a lawyer, I co-chaired the parliamentary committee that negotiated this constitution. I know the letter and spirit of this constitution better than the back of my hand. And I know that our constitution creates positions of not more than 22 cabinet secretaries, and they are styled, characterized and defined as cabinet secretaries. Premier this, chief that is just trying to sell a man a goat's kidney when you know very well a goat has got no kidneys.
Who decides the titles of these cabinet secretary positions?
The position cabinet secretary is a constitutional definition.
No, the titles. Cabinet secretary in charge of infrastructure, in charge of agriculture, in charge of public service. Who decides this?
You see, normally when a president is elected, he does what is called a cabinet paper. And a cabinet paper, or which is actually called an executive order. That executive order will define the character and the form of government. That paper is purely premised on the Constitution. And you may say this is a cabinet secretary responsible for infrastructure. I don't believe you can say this is a cabinet secretary responsible for premier cabinet secretary. There can't be anything like that. But
you can say this is a cabinet secretary in charge of oversight, for example.
So that the oversight cabinet secretary is the premier. He's the cabinet secretary of cabinet.
I'm just wondering. This issue of referendum vis-a-vis or
but why the obsession with the titles? So you have 5 people whose primary obsession is titles. You want to appear big. Whether big is real or imaginary, you just want power. So these are 5 people whose sole singular agenda is pursuit of power for the sake of power. And I believe we have a president and his deputy who have demonstrated that they want to use power for purposes fixing what ails this country and make Kenya better for 45 million people, not people who are obsessed with gathering 10 million people to seek
One of
the
criticisms of this government is about corruption. What is your point about that?
Corruption is a huge ill in this country. In fact, Mtegi, if you are to make me an advisor of Uhuru Kenyatta, I'll tell him that the moment you get elected on the 8th August, I believe he'll be elected, he'll be re-elected, then you must focus on corruption singularly, not in the fashion we have done in the last 4 years where.
But he has said he has failed, or people have failed. He said, what do you want me to do?
No, what the president has expressed is frustration, which is normal. Each one of us, even you, Mutegi, in your house, you can express frustration with your wife, with your children. It does not mean you're giving up on your family. Expressing frustration is the most normal thing in life. The president has expressed frustration, and for good reason. But I believe he has the capacity to do it. This is the only president that has fired almost 7 cabinet secretaries from his government because of being linked to corruption. Why are people like Kazungu Kambi, why are people like Charity Ngilu no longer in cabinet? This is a president who has demonstrated that it can be done, it should be done. What I would urge him to do is to be more, perhaps even more ruthless. Be more ruthless from September, and perhaps raise the bar in terms of going after the corrupt. And in any case, even if you look at the other formation, we have experiences of corruption all over. I mean, you look at the experience of Raila Odinga in and out of government. Musalia Mudavadi as a minister, whether as Minister for Finance or Minister for Local Government, Moses Wetangula, Minister for Foreign Affairs. I mean, if you're looking for people who have, in fact, you're fortunate that Uhuru Kenyatta may be the only person, if you were to put all these people together, the only person about whom you'd struggle to find any corrupt scandal around him as a person.
Around him?
Yes.
The issue is about his family.
Yeah.
No, I mean him as a person. Because honestly, you're not going to judge Uhuru Kenyatta on account of his family, because his family is not running for president. It is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta running.
So in a nutshell, would you say he has failed to tackle corruption in the last 4 years?
I would say that he has made a good effort, but there is much more that remains to be done. Yes.
But you yourself came under, you were accused of corruption as well when you were chair of PAC.
It was not really a question of being accused of corruption. It was part of the wider machinations. And by the way, I have said this repeatedly, Woodward, this was always part of the intrigues that was linked to ODM. Remember the people who made these allegations were ODM Member of Parliament. A fellow called Eddie Kanyanga, Member of Parliament for Nyatike, who takes instructions directly from Raila Odinga. This is the person who initiated this thing and drove it through Parliament, and indeed, during the whole investigation, there wasn't a morsel of evidence to link me to any form of corruption. But the idea was to remove me from the Public Accounts Committee and then escalate that to ODM, and the argument would be, you cannot have someone linked to corruption being Secretary General of ODM. So all these were part of intrigues, and I would challenge anybody who has any shred of evidence. Thankfully, we are at a time, Woodwork, when we are preparing to go for elections. This is a very good time to put all of us under the spotlight. And then the ESCC is vetting all of us right now. In fact, they will vet us until the day when IEBC releases the ballot papers. So anybody who has any information on about the number, I am as clean as snow, and I'm open to read as a book.
Okay, that's a good point to take a break. This is Cheche, and we're live on Citizen TV. Today's guest is Budalangi MP and Labour Party of Kenya leader Ababu Namwamba. We're unpacking his public declaration of support for President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election bid. Our question to you watching and listening is this: was this a better move for Ababu? Our SMS number is 22422, or you can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag Cheche.